Anything else you'd like to say, Brendan?
I am ready to rumble, and not just because we had an earthquake like an hour ago. I'm ready to ruin some lives. Mostly my own.
How'd you do that? Where'd that come from? Okay,
very carefully.
Yeah, clearly. What is happening? Anyway, welcome to Airborne Sealife, I guess is... Okay, welcome to the Airborne Sealife podcast. We talk about
your problem now.
Yeah, Airborne Sealife. It's your problem now.
It's your problem now. That's our tagline. So that's what we are.
So we're here to talk about our new nonprofit, Corpse Paint for Walruses.
roll
just out of control. This is truly an earthquake happened, and like Pandora's box just fucking broke open on this podcast. Anyway, we're here to talk about walruses.
Well, don't be stupid.
Now the Walrus Podcast.
We're talking about corpse paint for walruses. Don't be stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. My apologies. We're talking about corpse paint for walruses. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Anyway, as usual, we're going to talk about stuff.
You think
we're going to talk about
music?
Think
you think we can get John Green involved in this this charity?
Only one way. First off, again, it's a non-profit, not a charity. We're not doting it. Don't be. Anyway, we're going to move on from you, sir.
Okay, I'm done now.
What do we got today, boys?
Well, we have news. News is always
usually
fun.
The one who throws news at people.
You are usually the one. I wanted to talk about this one because I heard about this. So I am what you call old school, and I still listen to the radio.
Whoa.
What? Oh my god.
Hank Hill shock noise.
Whoa. I still listen to the radio. And
God dang it, Yusuf.
A couple days ago, on my drive home from work, I was listening to my favorite rock station here in Toronto, or just outside of Toronto, 94.9. If you know, you know. It's a great station. And they were talking about King Crimson doing a reunion tour with certain former members of the band, as well as 2 guest members for this tour starting later this year, I believe. One of them is notable Italian man who plays guitar, Steve Vai. And noted drummer of Tool, Danny Carey.
Which just seems like the wrong way to go for a King Crimson show, but they're both phenomenal musicians. So
I'm not going to throw shade. Like, they're both incredible musicians. The thing, like, it
more or less the correct way to do a King Crimson show, though, because like, is it really what you were expecting? Isn't that the point?
Fair.
He's got a point.
He does have a point.
Well, I mean, it's like you look at bands that are reuniting or doing things like that. Like, everyone kind of points fingers at the Pantera tribute, but not a tribute. It's a reunion, but not a reunion because half the band is dead. Tribute.
We're not going to get down that rabbit hole, man. Reunion. I don't want to get canceled today.
I don't know. We're not gonna talk about certain people in that band, but I do want to bring up this point. Is that when they announced that, what was it last year, Manny? Because I remember, we were in LA when they announced it, right?
Yeah.
We were working on stuff when they announced it. And they announced that Charlie Benanti of Anthrax, and of all people, shocking, Zakk Wylde, we're gonna be filling in, which like it makes sense. Zakk Wylde, I think, makes the most sense to be Dimebag 2.0.
I mean,
he is Dimebag 2.0.
He literally is just
he
Dimebag
literally
2.0.
is. Yeah. Look, if he's good enough for Ozzy Osbourne, he's good enough for you. Okay, he's good enough for Phil Anselmo. I don't know what else you want from me.
I mean, Phil Anselmo isn't even.
I don't know if being good enough for Phil Anselmo is a point of pride, but
yeah. That could mean a lot of things. And we're not going to get down that rabbit hole because I don't want to get canceled.
He does have very serious opinions about what is and is not good enough. Anyway,
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Pantera. We're here to talk about this weird King Crimson reunion. In that, like,
they are playing one of my absolute favorite King Crimson records, or stuff from it, Beat, which is really cool.
I'm just curious to see how this lineup is going to sound, because like it's very rare to hear Danny Carey in a not Danny Carey situation, aka Tool. Because like maybe he's done other stuff. I actually really don't know much about outside of Tool, but the only time I've ever seen Danny Carey playing with a band that wasn't Tool was the Taylor Hawkins tribute show that the Foo Fighters did last year, or 2 years ago now, whenever it was. I can't remember. It's been so long. I can't remember. 2 years ago. And Danny Carey came up on stage to pay tribute to Taylor Hawkins by, I'm not even joking, playing the song YYZ with the Canadian prog trio Rush.
I've never heard of them.
I'm not kidding.
Always Rush with this guy.
Rush was one of Taylor Hawkins' favorite bands. And obviously the great Neil Peart, who's no longer with us. But they came up, they played, I think they played Spirit of the Radio and YYZ, and they had fucking Danny Carey up there playing with them. And it got to the point where Danny Carey was rumored to be the next drummer of Rush if Geddy and Alex Lifeson never decide to go back on tour. And now he's playing with King Crimson.
Well,
sure.
Hey, it's probably going to be fun. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like King
that's
Crimson.
The thing, at the end
I
of the day,
love
right?
Beat. And I mean, they've got some good players on this, so you know.
I'm sure it'll be.
Say?
Yeah, I'm excited to hear Steve Vai in this context.
Yeah, my fear, and this would be much more of a risk if someone like Yngwie was doing this, is that Steve Vai is just going to Steve Vai all over the place.
Yeah,
come on, that would be a great show, though. His narcissism would fill up the stadium.
I don't know if it's so much narcissism. I would pay to see King Crimson with Yngwie because it would be hilarious. But Steve Vai does have a very distinctive thing that he does, and it is not King Crimson.
Yeah. I also have to clarify, I'm not throwing shade at him, but he's a guitarist who knows exactly how good he is, which is insanely good.
Yngwie Malmsteen knows exactly how good he is, but that in there lies a problem occasionally.
Of course. Also, here, I'm going to throw a completely useless fact out here.
Okay.
When we were preparing for this, I'm going to be completely honest, my brain replaced the word crimson with diamond, and it was like, that would be amazing. Is this an attempt at getting Steve Vai into Merciful Fate? I don't know. I would go see that show.
I don't know why, but the idea of King Diamond and Steve Vai on the same stage,
that seems legendary.
Only one person can have their tongue out for as long as they can at a certain time. Who will it be?
It will be a lightsaber battle of tongues.
Will be. Oh, God.
I think King Diamond has like a Darth Maul tongue going on.
I don't like it.
I love it.
I don't.
Is that is that the butterfly effect we use to eventually get Steve Vai to play with Metallica?
That is another show I would. That might be an improvement, honestly.
That's more of a probable thing, I think. That's not exactly out of the line of possibility, I think.
I guess
I would enjoy. Right? I would genuinely want to see that. So,
I guess so. Yeah.
Most importantly about this is it's going to be coming to Red Bank, and that's all the justification I need to go and do something.
Oh, they're playing stuff off Discipline too. That's cool. Anyway,
let's see. There's but they have their. So this is from the New York Post, by the way, not Loudwire or anything like that, which I thought was kind of crazy. But
I mean, King Crimson is huge. King Crimson is a serious old royalty.
They have
in the world of prog rock. So
they have one show in Toronto in October. Cool. Let me go see. What the fuck? They're playing in New Brunswick?
Yeah. A lot of bands play in New Brunswick.
What's your problem with that, Yusuf?
There's a gigantic, extremely important university. Or are we talking about the other New Brunswick?
I'm talking about the Canadian New Brunswick.
Oh, the one that doesn't matter. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly. No one we have New Brunswick, New Jersey.
No, I know you guys have New Brunswick, New Jersey, and I figured when you started talking, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about New Brunswick for like that? Oh, you're talking about Jersey. Yeah, no, I'm talking about the less important New Brunswick.
All I know is we're going to get a group message saying, hey, guys, I'm finally in New Brunswick. Manuel and I are going to get really excited and go to New Brunswick. And you're going to have a picture of Canadian New Brunswick, like, ha, you're both idiots. And I could see that happening. That's what you would do.
Brendan knows my he knows my plans. Yeah. They have, let's see. They have 2 shows in Ohio? Why? That's not even a state.
Well, hold on. Ohio kind of needs this. Like,
I don't know if this is going to help Ohio.
I didn't say it's going to help, only that it needs it. Okay, there's a big difference.
But yeah, they're so King Crimson's going to be on the road, and Steve Vai and Danny Carey are going to be on that tour. Get your tickets because I think that's actually going to be worth watching.
And most importantly, it is in fact not King Diamond as I initially anticipated.
It is not
still
King
a
Diamond.
Good time.
Oh well.
Yeah, those are 2 very different things.
Incredibly different.
On that note, though,
speaking
of bands that are currently on tour, Manuel, what Canadian
why am I introducing this?
What Canadian band are we talking about today?
You're the one who's obsessed with this band. No,
we're slightly obsessed with this band.
He just wants us to know how Canadian they are. There's the other thing.
You know what it is, though. You know what I will say this before we actually start talking about the band at hand today. I do like this band, but there is a dumb obsession with the fact that they are A, Canadian, and B, from Southern Ontario specifically, because I am also from Southern Ontario. So, like, them, Protest the Hero, like all these other bands, like, it's just the pride of this fucking part of the province. Anyway,
goddamn Maple Leaf.
This guy is a little more particular because This guy's a little more particular because our lives are strangely like a degree of separation away from each other. We're talking about Intervals. We're talking about good old
Aaron Marshall.
Aaron Marshall and his band of elves, freakishly tall elves, I might add. And the kind of fun prog rocky music they make. And we're doing the song. And we're doing, personally, it's my favorite thing he's ever written. The song By Far and Away from the record The Way Forward, which is like, man, a lot of his stuff is very, I don't want to say cut and paste, but there's a lot of stuff that's very like, very him, especially off the new most recent record they released, Circadian. Like, what is it? Lock and Key is very, very like his style of writing. But what I love about By Far and Away, and I'm going to kick this off, is the way it's written and the way it all feels and the way it flows. It's so different. It's like a breath of fresh air from a lot of things on that record and from previous things that he had released at that point in time. And it's a very like right out of the gate kind of, we don't really slow down. There's a little bit of a lull, but we're just gonna, you're on a joyride and like, it's a nice summer day. You got, your windows open, you got your hair flowing in the wind. It's that kind of song to me.
Yeah, and there is a bit of a lull in the middle, but it's where the guitar solo kicks in. So everything kind of, guitar solo, everything's a guitar solo, but it pulls back and just lets the guitar kind of breathe for
because there's Brendan.
Yeah, the point I want to get in there very much is, for me, like I was talking to Manuel before you came back, that like I have very distinctive vibes that this song evokes to me, and I'm going to talk about it. Here we go. I greatly see a very classic, like kind of 1980s like NES game where like you're running through verdant fields and it's this very uplifting ephemeral thing. It's exactly the kind of vibe. Like I see an old school Sonic the Hedgehog game where everything is light and airy and bright and exciting, and it's just this great sensation for me, and it's very much in line with what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very like drive down the highway on a nice warm summer day.
Yeah,
kind of.
Sure.
One thing I always
like California sort of song.
Yeah. One thing I always think about when I listen to this is like either California or like springtime in Boston. I would like walk around and like, do all shit. And like around the time when I was doing the intervals ensemble.
I mean, there is no springtime in Boston. There's mud season in Boston.
There is mud season. Yeah, there's spring.
You're thinking about spring is the 1 week between winter and mud season where it's warm for like a few minutes,
and you're like, oh my god, it's so pretty
as a deception,
out. And then it's all hell. And then there's just nothing but rain. Oh god. But no,
I love Boston, by the way.
Oh yeah, same. But it's
then
one of
there's
those,
like a guy in denim overalls coming up. Yep, the mud's here now. It's time to get everything all harvested, make the mud men, put them up, roll them, put a mud top hat on them, a mud
Yes,
cup.
this is the secret
pipe.
to the Boston economy. It's not finance, it's mud people.
I thought it was Duncan.
What do you think the mud people do after they make them?
Of course.
Yeah.
We're getting dangerously close to like pulp science fiction with this idea.
We are just a little
snow
bit.
mud people.
On that note, where was I? Right.
I have no idea.
No, it definitely invokes some feelings. I think there's a lot to not break down about this song because it's so pretty. I think that's just like the only way I can like describe it in one word is it's pretty. Right? Mm-hmm. It's not these like heavy, dirty, like gainy guitar tones. It's just very clean, very bubbly almost. Bouncy in a way. Brendan's thinking about something. What do you think?
Effervescent. Effervescent is the right word I would choose for this.
That was a large word. Apologize.
No, I don't. Get on my level, son. It's this effervescent. Like it is the fancier way of saying bubbly, but like for me, bubbly doesn't quite capture it. It requires a good singular descriptor where it's like this song. I feel like you could just float on this song and it carries you away to an adventure off and like loop-de-loops in the sky and there's like a scrolling background and I know there's like I've had the nostalgia feeling before, but this song really makes me feel like I'm back in a basement with like a 2-button controller and a directional pad and I'm running in a Sonic the Hedgehog adventure game, man. Oh, it's so good.
There's a lot of, I mean, like we could break this down in the nerdy way if we need to, if we feel like it, Manny. But there's definitely a lot of things in this song we can think of in regards to like harmony and even like instrumentation that help give it that like bubbly feeling. And I think a big part of it, is the guest feature of I believe it's Anomaly on piano.
I don't know.
I believe so.
Maybe
it might be.
I think it's Anomaly, the piano and those very kind of fusiony harmonic ideas do a lot for that. Where it's a little out, but it's not very, so it gives you this kind of I don't know. It's fun. It moves.
It just does something to you. It's very hard to describe. Like the easiest way, because I also never want to be reductive with a song, because it's very easy to just like, haha, it makes me feel this particular way, like XYZ video game. But that's almost reductive. I think we need to go to like the deeper levels of it, because it's very easy to just say the song is fun. You know, it's very lively and bubbly. But what makes it lively and bubbly?
I have not really taken the time to pull this apart harmonically, which I could if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do it on air here. One of the big things I think is just Aaron Marshall has a very developed sense of melody, but it's very developed in a very different way to like my favorite melody-based guitar boy is Paul Wardingham, who has a very different approach. Aaron Marshall takes a much more like pop approach to melody, I think, where it's these melodies that sort of flow and they don't change a whole lot from iteration to iteration, and they're very singable.
Yeah,
which makes it stick with you. Even his riffs are like that. Like take the riff from Lock and Key. I could sing that, which is what makes that song and this song so memorable and so fun, I think.
Yeah, I think also I do want to state a correction. It was not Anomaly. It's Owain is who played piano on this track, which like that stuff's so pretty. But Aaron's writing style is very pop oriented, and there's nothing bad about it. Actually, if anything, it's really cool the fact that he's able to do that. And to this point, it's we've talked about this in past episodes with other bands of like there were certain bands and artists that came around in the same time, like of a certain era, that were all kind of doing the same thing in different ways. Aaron is part of what I like to consider, I guess, not a trinity, but maybe a quad. What's a quadrilogy,
a quartet, maybe
a quartet of
like
guitar.
A barbershop quartet is 4 people.
Yeah. A
We'll
quartet of like guitar-based like instrumental groups that all came around at the same time, and that being Intervals, Pliny, Sean, and Polyphia.
Mm-hmm.
In which a lot back then.
But there's also Covet that goes
Covet
into that
is a big one
as well.
Yeah, that's the Covet. Like
of
Strawberry Eagles is in there.
Took all this shred like stuff from metal and all the kind of not harmonic, rhythmic ideas from gent and stuff, and then applied it to a more
mainstream,
happy, groovy.
And it's interesting because like we talk about like being able to sing back melodies. It's like with jazz, right? Like you hear these melodies, you're able to sing them back. They're catchy in that way, With Aaron and his writing and like to the point of the other bands that I've mentioned, it's interesting that that was the approach they all took at first. Some of them have deemed divvied off into other ventures, but
as bands do,
yeah. But Aaron keeping that whole idea and being able to make riffs. Being able to make riffs catchy enough where you're singing them back. You don't really necessarily. A lot of bands don't necessarily do that. And for him to keep being able to keep that consistent, I think has been really impressive to him. The other fun thing that I love about Aaron, and he always talks about this in interviews, he's not like a theory nerd or anything. You listen to the kind of stuff he plays, I'm just like, dude, you know what you're doing. I love that.
He's clearly either studied jazz harmony or has learned it intuitively.
Yeah.
I think my question... Oh, please.
No, Brendan. Go ahead.
So that kind of touches upon where my thought process was with it. Because I was wondering, is this something along the lines of a pedigree? Because, there's a clear... You're correct. I think there is a clear kind of poppy, upbeat kind of influence to it. Where is it that it is derived from his training? It almost sounds to me like this is something he directly sought out. He knew what he wanted to do, and he wanted to introduce that element to his music very specifically and deliberately. Would you say that's a fair takeaway from the idea?
I think so. I think the thing with Aaron, and I feel like the only way we could get a proper answer to this if we ask him, Aaron, if you're listening, or what's up, buddy, hop on sometime.
Come be our friend.
Aaron did the whole School of Hard Knocks thing. He didn't go to music school or anything like that. I know the high school he went to because it's not too far from where I work, and him and I have talked about this before. But he didn't do music school or anything like that. He just learned basic theory and just sort of took all that and went from there. And his pop influences are so interesting, and I don't necessarily know where you could pinpoint it, but it's the way he's been able to make, because the change he had in his writing style from the first EP he released as Intervals to what it was in the late 2010s with Shape of Color and Way Forward, and then to now with Circadian and the next album that they're working on. Mm-hmm. The only major difference has been he got away from the heavy thumpy gent stuff that was on his first EP to what it is now. So I'm very I always wonder about that in between of his style of change, his style of writing changing so drastically, where he's focused on very catchy melodies and things like that. And I think it works out well for him. He's a great player. He's got a great band with him too. That is able to do all the crazy shit that they write.
I would love to talk on this podcast. I'm sorry, Brendan, but I would love to talk at some point about two people, Tony McAlpine and Paul Wardingham.
I feel like Paul Wardingham's essential,
yeah. But the thing is, I think instrumental guitar music, And also Pliny, because we haven't talked about Pliny, because instrumental guitar music, it kind of, the origin of it is with those 80s guitar gods who I personally think that McAlpine is, him and Satriani are kind of the pinnacle of.
Yeah.
Because they were the two who understood melody and composition the best. And it has diverged into so many different places. I'd love to do a bit of a study of where it came from and then like a bunch of different places where it went. But, Brendan, what were you going to say?
Well, I think, now I could be misremembering this, but during my time with WSOU, I got to do one of the last Mayhem Fests where King Diamond was playing. And one of my interviews was with Andy LaRocque of King Diamond. And again, I'm just trying to verify this. I'm just trying to double check that I'm not misremembering this. But my memory serves that Andy LaRocque was also kind of like a self-taught guitarist. Like I remember asking him, like, how did you come into the whole guitar thing? And I believe that he told me that he was, I taught myself a lot of this. I figured out a lot of this on my own and just kind of did what I was going to do with it. And he is also regarded as like one of the most technically gifted and most theory-oriented guitar players in the whole world. So I think there's almost something to be said from taking your own initiative and using guitar and kind of studying it yourself, because I think, and it's nothing against the two of you, but when you go to a music school, it almost allows you to divorce yourself from the constraints of a tradition and find an entirely unique, individually seasoned style of guitar and an individual presence that you don't really find anywhere else. What do you think about that notion?
I kind of very much disagree with that notion, and it's I constantly complain about how guitar is one of the only instrument where people are proud that they never practice, and people are proud that they're like completely uneducated. And I'm not saying that you cannot become a phenomenal guitar player by learning on your own. Although I think most people who are self-taught actually did learn from somewhere because they just found places to study that aren't the traditional ways. But like there's this persistent myth that like learning good technique and learning theory and learning like how to do things properly is damaging to creativity, which I think is nonsense. I think it's extremely freeing for creativity. But at the same time, guitar does not have like electric guitar, particularly, pick style guitar does not have a tradition that is very old. So there are no, the schools of how to approach it are still developing.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up with people who take completely different approaches to the instrument, who are all fantastic, and I can argue about technique all day long, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with people who studied on their own. It's just that there is a lot of value in having a teacher, and in B, in taking a little bit of pride in treating your instrument as something that you study, even if you're studying it on your own, right? And not just throwing away like everything that people have discovered about it off the bat.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you. And it's never an implication that like, hey, guys, we should just never go to guitar school, or you should never go and have like a guitar teacher. I'm only postulating the notion that it is an interesting, what do you discover on your own? And when you get to the other end of your, because obviously you have to take, you don't just play random things. You're clearly learning it from somewhere. But it's, I think my takeaway from it is not so much, hey, you should just never go ahead and learn and just throw everything in the garbage. I think it's more of a, what do you find when you go off on your own and discover what you discover along the way and incorporate that into the larger sum of your own musical background.
Well, the thing is that like a lot of people will learn theory and be like, this is the rules and this is the only thing that I can do. And like, actually what theory does is prevents you from reinventing the wheel. Like we have, it's names for things. Now you know the name for this thing. Like after you have gotten to a certain point of in your training, you're actually should be encouraged to just figure things out yourself and experiment and try new stuff. And you're almost guaranteed that someone else has tried it before. But the more the training can inform where like how you go off the beaten path, if that makes sense.
Of course, that makes perfect sense to me. What do you think, Yusuf?
Hello, that is me.
That is you.
Stuff. Anyway, thank you. It's interesting. I disagree with your initial statement. Music school is a weird place in that, like, having good technique, I never think is a detriment, but some people do for some reason, to Manuel's point. However, I will say, for those that did not go to music school and learned on their own, like, there's definitely influences they learn from, and, you know, you watch how they, like with guitars specifically, you watch like the way they pick, and you watch like certain things about the way they approach their fretting hand and things like that. My best example personally, I think, is Steven Taranto. That dude did not go to music school at all. You watch the way he plays, and like his picking hand seems a little stiff, but like he's one of the cleanest, fastest players I've ever seen in my life. Like, yeah, you know, and like his influences came from somewhere, right? So it must have been just a lot of him listening to like what he was listening to growing up, and just learning from that, and sort of finding his own approach.
Even I don't know if he ever studied with someone. Like he may have had a teacher. Like a lot of people, like, okay, this is coming from someone who went to music school and loved it. You don't need to go to music school.
No, you don't.
You go to music school if you have a reason to be there. Because it is a school, first of all. So if you're going to treat it like a big jam session for 4 years, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
You go there if you feel the need for learning that in an academic setting, but you can learn very well by going and finding a teacher who you like, who can show you how they do things. That is a perfectly
you just dedicate yourself to what you
that.
do, and I think going back to the topic at hand, which of course is Aaron.
Right?
Yeah, that was a side tangent in itself.
You're welcome.
Thanks. But going back to, you know, guys like Aaron, I'm sure Aaron's like hit up other guitar buddies of his in the past, just like talk about like little things in there. Because even then, when you look at things from like a technique standpoint, for example, right? Like, so Manuel and I, our bandmate Michael, has like clean, very, very, very clean guitar technique, very clean. A lot of that recently, and Manuel can attest to this as well, stems from their mutual teacher, Matt Mills, right? And studying with him.
One of the best guitar teachers in the world.
And Matt, you know, Matt's very, I don't want to call him a stickler for technique, but he's very much like by the book, and the way he approaches technique is such a different thing. My point being, though, getting away from Matt for a second, is you look at someone like Aaron, and you talk about like guitar technique, and you watch how his picking hand works and things like that, and you go, okay, he's definitely sat down a little more and like worked on his technique rather than just like, you know, it looks kind of awkward. The thing I want to bring up about him, though, isn't pertaining to his picking necessarily, but that dude, and Manuel, you can agree or disagree if you want to, that he is the cleanest hybrid picker I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
what the fuck? Like, Aaron, dude, I fucking love you, man. That guy is, as far as like a hybrid, like from hybrid picking alone, he's got the cleanest technique I've ever seen. And it's just discipline, right? Like, hybrid picking isn't necessarily a thing you would learn in music school unless you wanted to learn it. At the end of the day.
Yeah, because it's mostly only used in like chicken picking.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff.
Yeah. So unless you actually want to learn how to hybrid pick, you would have to go tell your teacher, hey, I want to learn this. It's not in a curriculum or anything like that. So Aaron, you know, dedicating his time to learning how to, you know, properly hybrid pick and to be that clean is just, that's School of Hard Knocks right there. Yeah. It's School of Hard Knocks in a nutshell. And it's a testament to how hard he's worked, really putting himself out there as probably one of the best guitarists in the scene right now. You know, like he's definitely up there.
Absolutely.
And again,
it's also like I think he brought that technique into the mainstream for rock and metal, which is very cool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
To bring like that's like Tony McAlpine bringing the sweep and taps in, or Abasi bringing the thumping in. It's not a lot of people can say that.
On the topic of this though, since we're talking about the song By Far and Away, Brendan, is there anything you want to add, by the way? Just talking about, we've talked about obviously the overall feeling of the song being very, bouncy in a way, but is there anything like any particular parts of the song you want to bring up? There's something I want to bring up, but I'm,
No, I think that, I've made my thoughts known on it. This just a song that really excited me quite a bit. Every time we do an episode, it's always a treat to find something that I haven't directly experienced prior. And it's just a good way to keep my musical flavors evolving. And this song was a great additional evolution to my particular preferences. But please bring up what you would like to bring up.
Well, there's two things. First is the use of piano thanks to Owain, and just like every little thing in the harmonies that really boost everything up in like the verse sections, if you will, of the song. And one of my favorite parts of the whole song is that middle part where it goes into that lull, but there's that gorgeous synth bit that's happening during the whole thing. It sounds like a Bach. Yeah. It sounds like a Bach fugue, basically.
He really likes doing that because he does that in a couple of songs.
Yeah.
Those really kind of, I don't know how to describe them. That kind of synth line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's that moment where, it's almost like it's just something out of Bach, more. That's just counterpoint, right? But it's so pretty the way it's done, the kind of synth that he's using for it, the way that the harmonies are underneath it that sort of make it feel like not so much maybe like a sense of you're floating, like either in the air, or the way I kind of see it is like you've kind of gone underwater for a moment.
Yeah.
You've kind of gone underwater for a moment. You're looking around, and you see there's like a light, so you're just following that light, and you're like, oh, that looks pretty. You're exploring what is underwater before and there's no evil darkness. That's the great part. But
I think a sense of wonder is basically what we're describing here.
Yeah, definitely a sense of wonder. But you have that happening, and then what's fun is when they do it live, they'll do. Aaron will either take like a mini solo there, or Nate Bulla, also Southern Ontario beauty, will take like a fun little drum solo there. I always have to shout out if they're from Southern Ontario. But anyway, so you have that happen. What I also want to talk about is one musician who I think now is getting a lot of credit he deserves for being really fucking good at what he does, and that is Jake Umansky on bass.
Jake Umansky.
What a fucking monster.
Yeah, we Yusuf and I met Jake in college.
So we went to school together.
We went to school together. He graduated before we did, but what a beast.
Yeah.
What a beast of a player.
And Jake, Jake, he's been a big part of changing the way people approach extended range bass.
Yeah.
Because I think for so long in metal bands, if you see a 5-string, you're like, yeah, 5 strings, but most people are just using that low B and just chugging away. Not as many people are doing like anything upper register unless it's like death metal stuff. And then Jake Umansky shows up into the mix, and he's doing everything under the sun.
So would you say that Jake is disruptive in the space, particularly?
There's people like the hybrid picking. There's people who have been doing high register bass stuff for a long time, especially in funk and
fusion more, stuff. Yeah,
fusion, all that kind of stuff. But bass in metal until recently has been kind of treated as guitar but lower.
Yeah,
right. Where the purpose of the bass is just to add a low octave, and there's people like Umansky recently who are really doing that, giving that low end that you need, that the bass is for, but also adding, you know, high tapping parts and little melodies,
high
and
tapping,
that kind of,
like all these
very, very cool.
Thumping. There's a lot of like there's more slap that's being like slap technique and popping and you know thumping that's being used in modern metal stuff that I think Jake is a big reason for. And there's a lot of bass players out there that are starting to, you hear them play and you're like, there's a little bit of a Umansky influence there, which is insane.
Well, I mean, Amos Williams was doing that.
Yeah, he was doing that well before Umansky, but like, well, that's, to my point, like that generation of bass players, like there's a lot of stuff they're doing that you're like, whoa, fucking, like with Jake, because he uses a 6-string. He doesn't shy away from using all parts of the 6-string all over the board. And there's this moment in By Far and Away. It's after the no, it's before that. Sorry. It's before the synth stuff where it gets into the if I can sing the melody off the top of my head. It like picks up a little bit. It's like ba-da, 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 ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And there's this gorgeous tapping line that happens that Aaron and Umansky play in unison. And like every time I hear it, I'm just like, oh fuck, it's so good because
it's very good.
It's so good for so many reasons, and a big reason for me is that as a wannabe bass player, hearing lines like that is so much fun because it's a bass player truly utilizing his entire instrument. And like,
I asked the bass player to record something for me. Our good friend Yusuf and my good friend Nick Thorpe.
Yes, of course, Thorpe.
Shout out to Thorpe.
Shout out Thorpe.
So I asked him to record a song for me, and I had these like long arpeggio runs that were really fast, and it took him like 3 months longer than he said it would to record it. And I didn't ask him to double those runs, but then I'm like, why did this take so long? And he sends me a video, like a 3-hour video of him practicing those. Like, oh, that's why. All right. You didn't need to do that, but it sounds good.
That stuff's hard.
No, that stuff's very hard.
I'm sure, you know, like we had Hank on obviously a couple weeks ago, and Hank, the kind of stuff he has to learn for like Protest the Hero also goes into that line of like, oh, this shit's hard. Because you don't expect like with bass, right? As Manuel was pertaining to, people just expect it to be like lower guitar. I know because we have a bandmate like that.
He's getting better about it.
I know he is, but still, I like to mess with him on it. Anyway, you know, then you're hearing bass players like, you know, Amos has been doing that. Jake Umansky's been doing that. RF, the original bass player of Protest the Hero, was doing all this like wild tapping stuff. And you hear it, and you're like, is that a bass? Can basses do that? Yeah, they can. You just got to practice the shit out of it. It's cool.
You know what band does that really, really cool and does it on a 4-string? No, it's a 5.
I was gonna say the Omnific, but never mind.
Yeah, Omnific's awesome.
Yeah.
But no, what are they called? Oh geez, my brain stopped working.
Who could that is going to happen about? Yeah.
Better hurry, or we're going to pretend we're going to talk. We're going to put someone in your brain for you.
Yep.
Better hurry.
A Legion. A Legion. Sorry. Yes, okay. A Legion.
Yeah.
A Legion. You're listening to them, and it's just like tech death.
Yeah.
And then you hear like you're listening, and there's this like weird little tapping line.
And you're like,
why is that there?
From? Yeah.
But anyway, we're way off topic.
We are way off topic. But going back to the point, though, I do want to talk about how like this song is so much fun because there's so many little intricacies in just not even from like a listening standpoint, but like from a nerd, like a playing standpoint. There's so much cool shit that goes on here. Like there's a lot of really cool
There's a super cool moment I wanted to talk about. 2 of them. There's about 2 minutes in the guitar solo. There's a moment where there's a delay throw.
Okay.
Where he just plays a little line and then it just kind of bounces back and forth for a little while, which it really adds to that kind of chill driving down a California highway sort of feel. And then there's this awesome, like about 10 seconds after that, there's this awesome little call and response thing. Okay. If you know what I'm talking about, Yusuf. Yeah. In the solo, which you don't hear a ton in this kind of music, call and response.
No, not necessarily. And like, it's
very
different.
Effective.
It is very effective, and it's different too because, like, Aaron does all the writing himself. Or he was until like Nate and Jake and Travis became full-time members of the band. But so it's interesting to see how like the call and response sections work depending on who's doing it. Because like it's that. Oh, there's also oh my god. There's another really stupid moment I wanted to talk about. Brendan, is there anything you want to? I know we got off topic here, but
no, we did. I don't want to disrupt when you guys are off on a groove, man. I always like to see where you guys go with things, but I think I'll recant. Not necessarily the word disruptive. I feel like a more apropos idea is pioneering, perhaps. Like, we're seeing stuff in the song that just does not happen elsewhere. And it's like you say, I think the common theme of the discussion today is, I have not seen this in any other space, but it works so well here. So pioneering is going to be the word that I supplement instead of disruptive, because maybe not everyone's doing it, but we're seeing here examples of very technical, very theory crafted, and very specific ideas in a song that are just working in a way that we would not expect to see elsewhere. What do you think about that?
Absolutely.
I think that's more appropriate.
I think there's people now who are listening to this music because it's been around for a little while, and are themselves making music that is like this or inspired by that. We're friends with some of them, Yusuf and I, who love intervals and are now taking all these things that intervals do and doing their own spin. And that's how musical movements happen.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what it's pioneering. The idea is you're establishing a base by which other people see it, they experience it, and they want to carry that forward with them. It's almost like the beginning of a melting pot of music, right? And
well, it's exactly, that's what our brief discussion of Gent was in the last episode.
Exactly.
It's
full circle.
It's a foundation 100%. For new music.
It is a foundation for new music, and that's just kind of how things have gone. I mean, like long ago in a galaxy far, far away during the pandemic, Manuel and I and our friend Ro in the video game scene did a whole thing talking about just like the history of metal, and we spent a very good chunk of it, since all three of us are prog guys, discussing the way things evolved into what became the modern prog scene. But yeah, it's just how evolution goes, right? Like Aaron and the rest of the band were influenced by X amount of people, and now there's a bunch of guys out there now that are influenced by Aaron, by Jake, by Nate, by Travis Levrier, and Travis Levrier, we didn't give him enough fucking credit to, like, he's not on the record, but like he's Aaron's live guitar player now, or has been for a few years, and like former member of Scale to Summit. This dude's a fucking monster.
Yeah,
like underrated and underappreciated guitar player. Travis Levrier is incredible, and I do want to bring this up as kind of the last point of one of the other stupid little thing I enjoy so much about the song is that last chorus when there's the hits that go on, the bump 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 bump, and there's this wild, it's a synth line over it. The I can't sing it because it's so fucking hard and ridiculous.
We like watching you try. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly right. You attempt it. You give it the old college try, as they say. But that moment is always so cool to me because when they play it live, they don't have a synth track running it in the background. It's either Aaron or Travis that learn it, and just do the whole tapping lick. Because I remember, I guess I can end this with a story. Years ago, I did a thing called the Intervals Ensemble at Berkeley, where we just played a bunch of Aaron's shit. It was fun. We played with Manuel and I's friend Melissa Henderson, great guitar player as well. And we were learning by far and away. And sometime before we had our show at Berkeley, like our little ensemble recital thing, Intervals was coming to town. They were on a double headliner or a co-headliner with Veil of Maya. So Jake, being a former student of our former teacher, Dave Marvuglio, we got in touch with them and said, hey, can we come hang out and do whatever? Okay, sure. Cool. So we went over. They played at the Palladium in Worcester. We saw the show, and they play By Far, and so we're watching the entire time. We're like, okay, this is like, hearing it live is so much fun. And it gets to the end, and I remember, I think Melissa looked at me and she was like, there's no way they're playing the lick, right? Like, they have it on a synth, because they have the rest of, like, all of Elaine's stuff is running on a backing track, obviously. So we're like, yeah, it's probably just running on a backing track for the synth part. And then we see, it wasn't Travis, it was Sam Jacobs, I believe, playing second guitar for him at the time. Just absolutely nail that bit, and you could hear all of us in that were there just collectively scream, because I was like, that's a hard fucking lick. That's cool. Yeah. It's a testament to just how dedicated these guys are to what they do. It's a big testament to Aaron's writing of is it pop influence? Yeah, sure. But that's honestly what makes it fun.
I'd argue that's important. You don't always want to take the heaviest thing that you find. I think it's immensely important to take from other sides of music. Like, why not take pop influences?
Yeah, exactly.
I think you end up with things like this, because I think a lot of people turn their nose up at like certain genres of music, but like, you know, I'm going to go left field a little bit. Like, who would have thought you could get like a polka influence, but you get bands like Trollfest, and you get like folky bands like Korpiklani, and then you end up, who would have ever thought you could put an accordion in a metal band, or hurdy-gurdy in a metal band?
Yeah. Metal has a bad habit of turning into a bit of a circle jerk sometimes, and it's good when
people sort of go outside of the circle. Yeah.
And then you get a song like Evan Polka from Korpiklani, and it's like, why didn't we do this sooner? Like, no one in their right mind would think that you could put a polka riff or polka track in a metal song, but it makes so much sense. The way it just nestles so perfectly. You put like a punky underlay or like a thrashy underlay to it, and just keep that tempo going, and it makes so much sense. So in what universe does a pop influence not make sense, is my thought process.
No, absolutely. I think more, you know, as the world of music grows and grows, we're starting to hear more bands go outside of the box with what they're doing. You know, Aaron and this whole pop influence. There's a lot of other metal bands that are taking like jazz influences and whatnot into their writing.
Here's what you need to do. You take that box, you flatten it on the sidewalk, and you start breakdancing on that box while riffing on a guitar. That's what we need to do with metal.
Why not? You know?
It's performance art.
It is performance art. I mean, like, hell, Dance Gavin Dance was doing shit like that, where they would have like a crazy sweeping lick, and there's our fucking rap verse over it.
Yep.
We need more shit like that, you know?
All I'm saying is bring on the noise with Anthrax.
Yeah, not too. But yeah, I think that's all we have.
Yeah.
Maybe? Anything else?
Much.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Cool.
You happy?
I'm happy.
We happy.
We happy. But yeah, that's been.
Who wants to bring us home?
Well, that's been our discussion of By Far and Away. Sorry, by Intervals. You can actually check out Aaron currently. He's on tour with Hail the Sun. They're going to be in Toronto this week. Actually, I've got to go see him while they're here for the hometown show. But Intervals is currently on tour. You can check them out for the next month or two. I think they're going to be on the road. Go check out all their records. This is Off the Record not By Far and Away. That's the song name. This is Off the Record, The Way Forward from 2017. I'm having a rough morning. It's new, and I'm having a rough morning.
We love you anyway.
But yeah, this has been the Airborne.
And you didn't have an earthquake.
I know.
For real.
This has been the Airborne Sealife podcast, and as usual, you can find all of our full episodes on YouTube.com/ Airborne Sealife, I guess, or just search us up there. You can, we're working on getting on streaming platforms. We got to do a little bit of tweaking before we get that done, but we're getting there. For any content that we post, memes, dumb shorts, clips, and whatnot from the show, you can find us on Instagram at Airborne Sealife. You can find us on TikTok at Airborne Sealife. With that being said, keep flying. Goodbye.